It's become a staple of Christmas Day for many people in the UK and beyond. But what is the history of the Monarch's Christmas broadcast, from its beginnings in 1932 to its modern form? How has this uniquely Windsor family tradition evolved from sovereign to sovereign? Why has it been missed several times? What kind of content does it typically contain? What have been the technical challenges in delivering it to a global audience? And just what should we read into the family photographs which are, or aren't, sitting next to the monarch as they deliver their Christmas message? Just before I get to the main video, if you've got Irish ancestry or know someone who does, you might be interested in buying my book, Find Your Irish Ancestors Online. At the time this video is going live, it's available for pre-order from Amazon. There's a link in the description box below. And if you're watching after the book is out, then you can buy it right away. It's a directory of hundreds of websites which provide certificates, transcripts, photographs and other information that can help you build out your Irish family tree, learn your family story so that your ancestors feel like three-dimensional people and feel better connected to your past. The websites are graded on a simple star system to tell you which ones are the best, and the book will also share with you which ones are free, and many are, plus provide tips on how best to use them. So whether you're a seasoned genealogist or you just want a new hobby, if you have Irish ancestry, I urge you to check this out. And now, back to the Christmas broadcast. We can trace the roots of the Christmas message back to 1923, when John Reith, then the general manager of the infant BBC, which was then the British Broadcasting Company, not corporation, wrote to the private secretary of King George V and suggested that the relatively new medium of radio might be used to broadcast a speech from the King to his people on Christmas Day. The idea was soundly rejected. Reith was determined though, and he continued to promote the project for the next 9 years, until at last, with the assistance of the next private secretary and the Prime Minister, he got a yes. George would make a broadcast live from his house at Sandringham on Christmas Day 1932. The time chosen for this was 3 p.m. UK time, because that was the best time to reach as much of the British Empire as possible via the BBC's shortwave transmitters. The BBC sent the necessary equipment over on the 22nd of December, the King did some sound tests, and the room selected for the recording was the office of the Master of the Household, with a control room set up next door. I don't have a picture of that broadcast, but we can see this one from 1937, with the King in his favourite wicker chair, which he apparently broke right before the transmission back in 1932 by sitting down too hard in it. The broadcast went very well, and though it started 5 minutes late, it was transmitted to the UK, Australia, Canada, India, Kenya and South Africa using the General Post Office, and reached an audience of 20 million people. The speech was written by Rudyard Kipling and lasted just 3 minutes. George spoke in a clear, slow voice, with only one clearing of his throat, and said, "Through one of the marvels of modern science, I am enabled this Christmas Day to speak to all my peoples throughout the Empire. I take it as a good omen that wireless should have reached its present perfection at a time when the Empire has been linked in closer union, for it offers us immense possibilities to make that union closer still. It may be that our future may lay upon us more than one stern test. Our past will have taught us how to meet it unshaken. For the present, the work to which we are all equally bound is to arrive at a reasoned tranquillity within our borders, to regain prosperity without self-seeking, and to carry with us those whom the burden of past years has disheartened or overborne. My life's aim has been to serve as I might towards those ends. Your loyalty, your confidence in me, has been my abundant reward. I speak now from my home and from my heart to you all, to men and women so cut off by the snows, the desert or the sea that only voices out of the air can reach them, to those cut off from fuller life by blindness, sickness or infirmity, and to those who are celebrating this day with children and their grandchildren. To all, to each, I wish a happy Christmas. God bless you. The speech was well received, and George seemed happy with his performance too, writing in his diary that, at 3:35 p.m, broadcasted 251 words to the Empire. I actually make it 230, but a more interesting question is, why did he say 3:35 p.m? Well, that was because, and you'll already know this if you've seen my video about Sandringham time, which I'll link on screen and below, he had his own mini time zone on the estate, where the clocks ran 30 minutes ahead of the rest of the United Kingdom. The king would repeat the exercise for each of the remaining Christmases of his reign. His last was in 1935, just a month before his death. And for more on the shocking way in which he ultimately met his end, see my video on that topic, also linked for you. The next king, George's son, Edward VIII, is the only Windsor monarch so far to not make a Christmas speech, for his reign lasted only 10 months before he abdicated to marry Wallis Simpson in December 1936 and did not cover a Christmas. His successor was his younger brother, George VI, who also did not make a speech in 1936, having only just come to the throne 2 weeks earlier, but who did make one in 1937 when he thanked his people for their support during his first year on the throne. The fact that George VI undertook this live speech on Christmas Day, which would be stressful for any of us, I think, is all the more remarkable and admirable because he had a well-known stutter, which must have made tasks like these absolutely horrendous. It is perhaps one of the reasons why he did not originally intend to make the Christmas broadcast an annual tradition in his reign, though he said only in 1937 that he didn't think the public would wish him to, quote, carry on unvaried, a tradition so personal to his late father. Whatever the real reasons, he opted not to put himself through the ordeal in 1938. It was, I think, only because World War II broke out in 1939 that, despite the discomfort it must have cost him, the Christmas speech made a comeback, with the king telling his people that a new year is at hand. We cannot tell what it will bring. If it brings peace, how thankful we shall all be. If it brings us continued struggle, we shall remain undaunted. These morale-boosting speeches, which were quite long, would continue each Christmas of the conflict, with the king also acknowledging the sacrifices made by his people and thanking all those taking part in the war effort. They were mostly relayed from Windsor Castle for security reasons, though this wasn't made public at the time. This picture from 1944 shows how seriously he took it, dressed in his naval uniform and allowing himself to be photographed making the speech to further bolster its good propaganda effects. Even when the war was over in 1945, the Christmas speech would never be missed by George VI again, and its popularity continued to grow, with audience numbers now hitting 400 million. By 1949, he was able to say that every year he valued, quote, more highly the opportunity of this message that I am able to give to you on Christmas Day. He acquitted himself extremely well with them and with his speech-giving duties in general, and the story of how he and his speech therapist worked on helping him to manage the stammer was made into an Oscar-winning film called The King's Speech in 2010, starring Colin Firth, Geoffrey Rush and Helena Bonham Carter. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it and will pop a link for it below for you. In 1951, his speech was pre-recorded, the first time this had been done, due to his ill health caused by lung cancer, and it was a laborious task for him to record it in short bursts over a period of several hours, with the breaks edited out later. He thanked his people across the UK, Empire and Commonwealth, plus those from other countries, for their good wishes for him in the time of his illness, but sadly he succumbed to the cancer the following February and was succeeded by his elder daughter, the 25-year-old Elizabeth II. Elizabeth's reign would take the Christmas speech to new heights. Initially, though, it followed the same format as that employed by George V and VI. It was broadcast live on Christmas Day, usually from Sandringham, and on the radio only. In her first of 1952, she said that my father and my grandfather before him worked all their lives to unite our peoples ever more closely, and to maintain its ideals which were so near to their hearts. I shall strive to carry on their work. The following year was vastly different in terms of location, for the speech was given from Auckland, New Zealand, where the Queen and her husband, Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, were staying whilst on a 6-month tour of the Commonwealth. It was broadcast initially at 9 a.m. UK time, which was 9 p.m. in Auckland, then again at 3 o'clock. In 1956, with Philip away on a voyage around the Commonwealth on Britannia, the very unusual decision was taken to have him make a speech from on board ship, which preceded the Queen's own. By far the biggest change made during Elizabeth's reign, however, was the introduction of a televised broadcast. This was first suggested in 1954, but did not become a reality until 1957. Now, for the first time, the Queen's people, or rather those in the UK who had TVs, for the limits of the technology meant a live broadcast from Sandringham could go no further, could see her in their own living rooms as she spoke to them and even get a glimpse inside one of her homes, with pictures of her young children and other family members sitting next to her on the desk in the long library there. The Queen acknowledged this dramatic change in how the speech was delivered, saying, "25 years ago, my grandfather broadcast the first of these Christmas messages. Today is another landmark because television has made it possible for many of you to see me in your homes on Christmas Day. My own family often gather round to watch television as they are at this moment, and that is how I imagine you now. I very much hope that this new medium will make my Christmas message more personal and direct. It is inevitable that I should seem a rather remote figure to many of you, a successor to the kings and queens of history, someone whose face may be familiar in newspapers and films, but who never really touches your personal lives. But now, at least for a few minutes, I welcome you to the peace of my own home." Such was the enthusiasm for the new medium that the Queen had to explain the following year that, despite the many requests that her then very young children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, appear in the Christmas broadcast too, she and the Duke of Edinburgh had decided against it in order to protect their privacy and allow them as normal a childhood as possible. The broadcast would continue to feature just her. These early recordings were in black and white, but in 1967 the Queen appeared in colour for the first time, in a canary yellow dress and triple string of pearls. Further changes, which we now take for granted, had also occurred by then. Starting in 1959, when the Queen was heavily pregnant and briefly reverted to a short audio-only message, something she would do again during her 4th pregnancy in 1963, the speeches were recorded in advance so that copies could be sent around the world before Christmas and aired at more convenient times than 3 p.m. UK. This meant that the location of the filming could also be changed, as it was no longer necessary to have a TV crew dispatched to Sandringham on Christmas Day, a relief for everyone, I'm sure. I can't imagine either the monarchs or the crews sent to record the speeches appreciated the stress and inconvenience of having to handle a live broadcast on Christmas instead of relaxing with their family and friends. Many later speeches were recorded at Windsor Castle or Buckingham Palace in the days or weeks leading up to the 25th of December. In 1975, it was even shot in the Palace Gardens, and in 1986, it was filmed in the nearby Royal Mews. That of 1989 took place in the Royal Albert Hall, because, as Her Majesty said, "I thought I would use the presence of 2,000 children at this occasion organised by the Save the Children Fund in the Albert Hall, here in the heart of London, to send this special message to the children of the Commonwealth." Due to the war in Afghanistan, the speech of 2003 was recorded at Combermere Barracks in Windsor, so that the Queen could better acknowledge the conflict, saying, "I want to draw attention to the many servicemen and women who are stationed far from home this Christmas. I'm thinking about their wives and children and about their parents and friends." On rare occasions, when something of great note happens after the message has been recorded, an additional segment will be added in. This happened in 1988 when the Lockerbie bombing of an aircraft occurred on the night of the 21st of December, and the Queen's speech included a late edition in which she acknowledged what had happened, as well as a train accident at Clapham and a huge earthquake in Armenia. Pre-recording also meant that additional footage could be spliced in, sometimes with the monarch speaking over it, sometimes not, And nowadays, the speech tends to be about 10 minutes long, with a good deal of it given over to this other footage. I'm not certain when this began, as I couldn't find recordings of all the speeches to check, but footage of trips to Australia, New Zealand and Canada was edited into the 1970 broadcast, while the one from 1971 showed Princes Andrew and Edward looking at a family photo album, and 1973's included wedding footage of Princess Anne and Mark Philip's nuptials. One of my favourites is from 1984 though, which has a lengthy cutaway to behind-the-scenes footage of Prince Harry's christening. The only year the Queen ever skipped was 1969, and that was because a repeat broadcast of the now infamous documentary Royal Family was scheduled instead. The family regretted agreeing to that documentary, and it is not allowed to be publicly broadcast again, though it does sometimes pop up occasionally on YouTube for short periods of time before getting taken down. The Queen did issue a written statement in that year though, reassuring people that "my good wishes are no less warm and personal because they come to you in a different form," and discussing, among other things, the recent moon landing. The content of the speeches is always different, and yet also follows many of the same broad themes. The monarch generally looks back at and reflects upon events of the previous year, both within their own family and the UK and wider world. They sometimes look forward to planned events in the year to come, such as royal tours, and they offer a message of unity and good wishes to all. Depending on the year, there might be a discussion of some memorable anniversaries, like Canada's centenary in 1967, Australia's bicentenary in 1988, the 40th anniversary of D-Day in 1984, the 50th in 1994, the 50th anniversary of the ending of World War II in 1995, and the 70th anniversary in 2015. In 1972, Queen Elizabeth referenced the Troubles in Northern Ireland, something she would do many times in later years as well. In earlier speeches, there was also often talk of the Empire, though that petered out during the 1950s and was replaced with references to do with the Commonwealth. There was a brief period when both were spoken of. Great societal changes could be acknowledged too. In 1966, the Queen commented on women's increasing role outside the home, saying, "In the modern world, the opportunities for women to give something of value to the human family are greater than ever, because, through their own efforts, they are now beginning to play their full part in public life." By the late 1980s, environmental factors were mentioned too, as in the 1989 speech in which Elizabeth said, "Part of that best in us could be a particular tenderness towards this earth which we share as human beings, all of us, and together as the nations of the world will leave to our children and our children's children. We must be kind to it for their sake." King Charles, who has long been an advocate for environmental issues, has unsurprisingly continued this theme, saying in 2023 that "Service to others is but one way of honouring the whole of creation, which, after all, is a manifestation of the divine. This is a belief shared by all religions. To care for this creation is a responsibility owned by people of all faiths and of none. We care for the earth for the sake of our children's children." Just as in these speeches, references to children are also quite common. The 1940 speech of George V referenced the day being Children's Day, a sentiment echoed in 1954. In 1964, Queen Elizabeth told the children of the Commonwealth that "upon you rests our hope for the future." The idea of faith in the future is prevalent too, and the Queen remarked on its frequent appearances in Christmas broadcasts herself in 1978. In 1979, it was the Year of the Child, and the broadcast took children and young people as its theme. And in the Queen's final ever message in 2021, she commented that, "I am sure someone somewhere today will remark that Christmas is a time for children. It's an engaging truth, but only half the story. Perhaps it's truer to say that Christmas can speak to the child within us all. Adults, when weighed down with worries, sometimes fail to see the joy in simple things, where children do not." Then there's religion. Christmas is a Christian holiday, of course, and the royals are Anglican. However, while the Georges referenced Christianity only, Elizabeth from the outset made an effort to reach out to those who were not of any such faith, or indeed any faith at all. In her very first speech of 1952, she asked that everyone, no matter their religion, pray for her on her coronation day the following summer. Now, this was still very much couched in terms of Christianity, for she went on to say, "Pray that God may give me wisdom and strength to carry out the solemn promises I shall be making, and that I may faithfully serve him and you all the days of my life." However, for 1952, it was a very tolerant start. In 1958, she acknowledged that, "To many of my people, Christmas doesn't have the same religious significance, but friendship and goodwill are common to us all." And by the millennium, her tone had evolved to, "Whether we believe in God or not, I think most of us have a sense of the spiritual, that recognition of a deeper meaning and purpose in our lives, and I believe that this sense flourishes despite the pressures of our world." This spirituality can be seen in the teachings of other great faiths. Of course, religion can be divisive, but the Bible, the Quran, and the sacred texts of the Jews and Hindus, Buddhists and Sikhs are all sources of divine inspiration and practical guidance passed down through the generations. Her religion was important to her till the end, with the biblical Christmas story always making an appearance in her speeches one way or another, including the last one in which she said that the teachings of Jesus have been the bedrock of my faith. King Charles has continued that theme, remarking in his first speech in 2022 on how important a visit to Bethlehem had been for him with a chance to visit the Church of the Nativity, and saying in 2023 that service, quote, lies at the heart of the Christmas story. He too has made efforts to reach out to all faiths though, adding in 2022 that the power of light overcoming darkness is celebrated across the boundaries of faith and belief. So whatever faith you have, or whether you have none, it is in this life-giving light and with the true humility that lies in our service to others that I believe we can find hope for the future. Let us therefore celebrate it together and cherish it always. Let's finish by thinking about the family photos, often, but certainly not always, displayed near the monarch whilst they make their annual speech, and what these can tell us about family relations and the royal pecking order. In recent years, the focus of these has been on the most senior working royals only, and most of the family do not make an appearance. The pictures might also reference anniversaries, birthdays, and major family events from the previous year. In 2017, the focus was on the Queen and Prince Philip's platinum wedding anniversary, with a picture from their wedding and another recent shot of them. The only other photos were of Prince George and Princess Charlotte. In 2018, though, the family had a busy year, and the images reflected this, with no less than 6 on display. 3 right next to Queen Elizabeth showed her father, her and Prince Philip with a baby Prince Charles, and a group shot of Charles and Camilla with his sons and his grandchildren to celebrate his 70th birthday year. On another table, further away, were pictures of the weddings of both Prince Harry and Princess Eugenie, and one of Prince William's family Christmas card. As a non-working royal, Eugenie wouldn't usually have made an appearance, but an exception was clearly made in honour of her marriage. In 2019, with problems rumbling away with Harry and Meghan, it's interesting that they didn't appear, though the birth of the now Prince Archie was mentioned. Instead, there were photos of the Queen's father and her husband, the then Prince Charles and Duchess of Cornwall, plus one of Prince William and his family. By Christmas 2020, things with Harry and Meghan were even worse, and perhaps to avoid any speculation as to why she had or hadn't included them, Her Majesty kept things very simple and safe by only displaying one photo showing Prince Philip. The following year, with Philip now dead and the Queen giving what would be her last ever Christmas message, it was just a photo of the two of them together. Interestingly, and wisely I think, King Charles has so far avoided the politics of who makes the photo display altogether by giving his speeches standing in front of a Christmas tree with no pictures at all. If you'd like to read the speeches, transcripts of all those from 1952 to the present are available on the royal family's website, which I've linked below for you. I enjoyed the one from my birth year in particular, for instance. Before I go, if you've enjoyed this content, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell switched on. If you'd like more from History Calling, you have a variety of options. I have a Patreon site where I provide bonus content every week, or you can join my YouTube membership by clicking the join button underneath videos or on my homepage. I have an Amazon storefront too, or for free extras, why not check out my Instagram and my website, on the latter of which you can sign up to my newsletter and get 2 free downloads giving you 5 quick and easy tips for spotting a good history book versus a bad one, and interviewing your family members about your family tree. All of the links you'll need are below. Let me know in the comments if you ever watch or listen to the Monarch's Christmas message, even if you don't live in the UK or a Commonwealth country. And for more Christmas videos, try one of these options next. Whatever you choose, please enjoy, and until next time, keep learning.